Greetings, Android development class. This is your professor, Jeff Dunker, coming at you with Module 7 and detailing the primary detail flow tutorial. I'm going to be demoing how to do that from page 417 on Chapter 51. And basically what a primary detail flow is providing activity screens that create a list for you. And then from that list, you can select items from that list. And in the detail area, a separate activity screen or portion of a screen. If you're using an Android tablet, you can set up things differently so that all the detail and information that you want gets in that detail area. And there's going to be separate layout areas, obviously XML files for both the primary list and your detail list, so it'll be separate. So without further ado, let's make a new project within Android Studio. So if you open up Android Studio, and we'll go create a new project. And I'm going to share my screen here for a new project. And we're going to be picking a new template they haven't used before called Primary Detail Flow. So once you have that selected, click Next. And this particular application name, we're going to be calling this Primary with capital P, capital D, Detail Flow, capital F. So your package name is com.ebookfrenzy.primarydetailflow. And you save to your default location on your computer that you've been using for your projects. Select Java as your programming language and API 26 once again for your minimum SDK. So once we select that, I'll let that load up and we'll go from there. Alright, it loaded, it gave us some default details, and we're going to be getting rid of everything here except for the main item detail container. But before we do that, on page 419, 51.4 section, you basically want to go into your Java Java file areas and see that there's this new folder called placeholder. If we expand on that, we can see a new Java content class called placeholder content. So let's double click that and see the code that we're going to need to modify. So under placeholder item, if we scroll down to placeholder item, yeah, placeholder item, I saw it there. So there are three variable declarations. We can just eliminate those at first because we're going to have to make new variable declarations. And we'll say public string, and we're going to just have an index ID. And then we're going to have a declaration for both website name and website URL, because we're going to be storing websites and loading those particular websites from our application. So public string website underscore name, public string website underscore URL for uniform resource locator, your HTTPS address, for example. So those are your three variables that you needed to declare. And we're not going to be using a variable called content and detail, so we'll just remove those temporarily. And then we'll create new lines for storing website information. But keep in mind, for this placeholder item, we're no longer storing content and details. We have the names website ID or website name, and we want to pass in website URL as well. So here, this dot website name equals, you're passing in website name as a string, so website name is what we're calling it, and this dot website URL is equal to website URL. So finally, at the middle of the page, we want to not return content, but we want to return the website name. So that's that stores that information. I'm going to Control S to save. We see one related problem that will be fixed. We just have to modify another class. For right now, though, we'll stick in the placeholder content class, and by default with this template, it goes and creates 25 items. And we're going to get rid of that code. We're going to keep the public static final map here, but what we'll do is eliminate the declaration for count equals 25. We're not going to have 25 items, and we're going to not add item placeholders for them, those 25. So we can get rid of lines 26 through 33. What I did was I stayed on line 26, or positioned myself there, and then held down the shift key and down arrow until I had all that selected until lines 33, and then hit the delete key. So that eliminates that code from our project. So Control S to save, and then we can move on to page 420, where we're going to modify further this particular class and eliminate the placeholder item detail, as well as the make details. So let's find that information. So placeholder item, here's that, and there's what we're going to do. Private static, is that what it is? Yeah, right here I have it, line 31, private static placeholder item, this, and this particular code here, up through the return builder to string. And once I have that all selected, I can remove that from the code. Control S. And then I need to locate the final map, public stack final map, right there. And we're going to be adding code here for our 3 websites that we're going to be populating into this list. So we have a static declaration. We're going to be adding 3 items. So add item. And we're going to add the index, the name of the site, and the website location, the HTTPS address. So inside of add item, we declare new placeholder item. And in the parentheses, we have the index, like I mentioned. Ebook Frenzy is the name of the website for the first one, and then the HTTPS address. And see how it notes website URL for the variables that we declared and website name. So https://www.ebookfrenzy.com. So that makes our first item, and now we need to make 2 more. So I'm just going to populate it, just copy and paste, and then just make my modifications here. So they want Amazon.com, and it's Amazon.com here. And then our final one was the New York Times, New York Times website, nytimes.com. Okay, that looks good. I'll just tighten up the code there. Control S to save. Now we actually need to go into our XML and modify the fragment item detail XML. You'll notice that there's 2 versions of this file. One's SW600DP, and first we're going to modify the standard one. So under our component tree down here, we're going to eliminate all the default items that it puts on our screen, because we don't want the toolbar layout, the app bar, and so forth. So what I'm going to do is, this is the detail container. Just underneath that, I'm going to select that, hit Shift, and select all the other components on this tree. And then I'm going to get rid of them by hitting the delete key. That removes those from this XML. So what we need to do is add a web view object, because this is where we're going to view that web page. So under widgets, I'm going to select the web view and drag that over to the center of the page. And it just encompasses the entire screen now. So we don't even need to make modifications other than renaming, providing an ID for this web view, and we're going to be calling it website detail. Website_detail. So that takes care of this particular XML file. We'll still need to modify the second one, the SW600DP. So I double click it, and that's going to bring this up. By default, it gives you a text view widget that encompasses the entire screen. We want to get rid of that. So I selected it and hit the delete key. So we're going to duplicate what we did on the main fragment item detail XML by dragging a web view thing over to the center of the screen. And then we still need to give this the same name as we did to the first one. And so this is going to be website detail for the ID. So that's done in the attributes area on the far right. So with that being done, I'm going to Control S to save, and we can go on to step 51.6. Now let's go over into our Java area up here. We have itemDetailFragment. That's what we're going to be modifying for step 51.6 on page 421. We're going to be adding 3 imports to this Java class at first, and then we'll be making other changes as well. So double click your itemDetailFragment to bring it up, and at the top click the ellipses for the import so you can see all your imports. And then what we want to do is add 3 more import lines from page 421. Import Android, WebKit, web resource request, because we're going to be requesting HTTPS resources from the web. And then we need to import our web view. Import Android, WebKit, web view. And finally, we need to import Android, WebKit, WebView client. Alright, I'm going to Control S to save and switch over to page 422. All we need to do next is delete a little code under the onCreateView method. So onCreateView, let's look for onCreateView. onCreate. I just Controlled F to do a search on onCreateView, and that's right there in line 73. So on onCreateView, you'll notice that we can find what code's going to error. We removed the toolbar and the item detail from our XML, remember? So this is why we need to eliminate these 2 lines of code on 79 and 80 for me. So those are gone now. And the last thing we need to do is add a little code for the set WebView client. So we need to go under updateContent, and this is the area we need to adjust. So we can get rid of these 3 lines here because we're going to be adding our own stuff to this area, because those particular items don't exist anymore. These variables are no longer used, so we can get rid of them like so. So once m item is not equal to null, we're going to be adding code here on the middle of page 422. Binding dot item detail dot set web view client, and this is a new declaration of web view client, and get rid of that parenthesis there. And now we need to do a little code here, add override, and we need to public Boolean declaration should override should override URL loading. And this is a web view client, web view. We'll call it view web resource request. Call it request. And brackets. We're going to be returning super. Should override URL loading. And in this area, we're parameters view and request. So we need to close code there, parentheses. Clean up our stuff here. I think this needs to be at that level there. So then we can have binding. Our last piece of code that we have to type for this is website detail dot load URL and item dot website URL. Let's do this. It's getting an error for this. Let me just double check my parameters and tabs. Yeah, that's not that's a bracket. Okay, so the only error that we have left, it shows item detail in the book. I'm going to switch this to website detail. So and that seems to correct it. Let's give that a shot, and I'll Control S so that we can move forward and make modifications to the item list fragment class next. So what I need to do, there's under item list fragment, double click that, and there's two minor changes for this, and I think we can scroll down and see stuff in red here. Oh yes, we can. So line 128, the content, that's our old variable. We just need to replace that with website name. And then we need to look for another content there under set on click listener. Is that it? Get tag. Yeah. Drag clip data. Yep. This is set on click listener up here, and then you got yep, set on click listener, on long click listener. So that needs to be website name as well. So Control S to save that stuff. And next we need to do is add manifest permissions to our Android manifest XML file. So just above the application area, excuse me, we'll need to make this change. Uses permission, and we're going to be using Android permission.internet, and then closing up this with a slash and a less than or greater than sign. So that's basically what we have to do in step 51.8. It's right there in our Android manifest XML file that uses permission. Android name equals Android permission internet. So basically you're giving this application permission to go out to the internet to grab the website from and view it within your detail window. So next thing we can do is make sure that we have Pixel 2 API 26 selected, and let's compile our application. Any day now. There we go. So launch succeeded. Should be able to power on. Hey, look, we got an application. And we gave it permission, so if I click on one of these, it should go out and pull out the website. So let's click on to Amazon, see if it pulls up the Amazon website. Hey, look, it loaded the website. Pretty darn cool. So hit the back arrow, so it goes back to the list. Let's go to New York Times. Hey, look at that. New York Times loads up. eBook Frenzy brings up the eBook Frenzy website. You got a working web viewer application. Congratulations. What this is going to give you is the background to create the lab for this week, which is your sports arena application. And essentially what you're doing is creating a list similar to this, but it's going to be for various sports arenas, whether you want to do baseball fields, whether you want to do soccer stadiums, whether you want to have NFL stadiums as well. So you'd just be creating a list, with your add items, and basically just showing detail, including images with population, ability, how many people can be housed in a stadium, etc. Just read through the specifications for the lab in Module 7, and that should give you the details. If you have images in there, it boosts you from 90% to 100% potential, and that should do it. If you have any questions, feel free to use my office hours, send me emails. It's easier to see how things are looking when we're sharing screens via Zoom, but feel free to use snapshots and submit your code through Brightspace if you want me to take a look at it. But please do that before the weekend, and talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot.